Imagine if you could send just one email and within a few hours have 6 appointments booked in your diary. Sounds too good to be true? Well, that's exactly what happened to one of my IFA clients, Bobby, a few weeks ago. Bobby is an IFA who specialises in estate planning, but this same technique will work with pretty much any niche. And one Saturday morning, a couple of months ago, Bobby sent an email to his mailing list. It was a very short email, and it went to about 600 or so people. And the email followed a template that I'd provided him with, one which simply highlighted a few of the benefits of using Bobby's service and invited the recipient to go ahead and click a link and book a call with him. The email went out around about 10 a.m. and by the end of the afternoon, 6 people had booked a call. By the end of the following day, 3 more calls were booked into the diary. So that's 9 appointments just from sending a single email. Now, of course, Bobby was only able to do this and send me this email in the first place because he had what I think is one of the most valuable assets in any business, and that is an email list. And I don't mean one of those lists of so-called decision makers that you can go out and buy. I'm talking about a list of qualified warm prospects who've actually asked to receive regular emails from you. So how do you go about building such a list? Well, it's actually a lot easier than you might think, and it could be done quite quickly. This client of mine, Bobby, is a good example. When I started working with him, he had no email list at all. And a couple of months later, he had a list of over 600 people. Now, if you want to know how he did that, then I've got some good news for you. A few weeks ago, I ran a webinar explaining exactly how you can go about building an email list like this of your own for your financial services business. So if you didn't manage to make it to the webinar, don't worry, because I've got a recording of it here. Stay tuned if you'd like to watch it. Good. All right, let's make a start then. I'll just do a quick bit of housekeeping and just do that slowly to give any latecomers a chance to come in. Firstly, thanks very much for coming along today. Good to see a nice mix of people I know from my group coaching program and also some new names and faces. So welcome all of you. I've put you all onto mute at the moment. I think I have. Yeah, so if you can just stay on mute during the presentation, just so we don't get loads of background noise. But if you've feel free to keep your cameras on, because it's nice to be able to see a few faces, and that helps me gauge whether people are understanding it or whether they're confused. But equally, if you're feeling shy, you're eating lunch, then feel free to turn it off. But nice to see a few of you. And as we go along, if you've got any questions, please do put them into the chat. And what I'll do is I might pick up a few questions as we go along, but I'll certainly, when we get to the end of the presentation bit, I'll go through the chat and find any questions that are in there and do my best to answer them for you. So I think that's probably all we need to know. So let's crack on. So obviously, yeah, today is all about how to use email to get new clients. I'm going to be talking primarily, because most of you on the call are in financial services, I'll talk about it primarily from the point of view of using email as a mortgage broker or financial advisor. But I think it's fair to say everything I'm going to cover today would be, could be transferred to any service-based business really, and some sort of product e-commerce type business as well. Okay, so what we're going to be covering, it's 4 things really. I want to talk a little bit first of all about why email marketing is important, so you understand actually why it's worth doing this stuff. I'm going to talk about what email marketing isn't as well, because there are quite a few misconceptions around what's involved in email marketing, so I want to dispel a few of those myths. And then we're going to talk about how you build an email list, and then what kind of emails that you can then send to that list that are going to create you new business opportunities. They're the 4 areas we're going to do. Just before we get into it, I'd wanted to share the results of a poll that I ran on LinkedIn. Some of you may have voted in it. I put it on LinkedIn a few days ago. And basically my question was, how often do you send something to people on your email list? And as you can see from the results there, there's about 29% of people send stuff monthly, a few are doing weekly, a few are doing daily. But the thing that stood out to me is over half of you who filled in that survey, over half of you have never sent anything to your list, or maybe don't even have a list in the first place. And I have to say, based on conversations I have with people in my group coaching program and one-to-one clients when they first start working with me, that doesn't surprise me, because most people I speak to either they've never got around to building an email list, or they've built a list, but they don't know what to send to their list, or they're too frightened to email their list in case people unsubscribe. So yeah, so over half of you in that boat, but that does mean that you're missing out. But hopefully after today, you'll realize what you're missing out on and know how to address it. So what are you missing out on? Why should people do email marketing? Well, there are three real reasons why I think email marketing is really effective. First is it's direct communication. So what I mean by that is I'm thinking particularly there in terms of how it contrasts with things like social media. So if you put a post on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, any social platform like that, you are not communicating directly with individual people. You know, if you put a post on, I'll just say Facebook as an example, that will be seen by some of the people who follow you or your page, but certainly won't be seen by all of them. It will not appear in everybody's feed, and that applies to all of the social networks. Whereas when you send an email to people on your list, okay, you can't guarantee everybody will read that email, but what you can guarantee is every person on your list will receive your email into their inbox. Okay, so that's what I mean by it being a direct form of communication. And the other way in which it benefits over posting on social media is when you have an email list, that is an asset that you actually own in your business. Okay, and when you send emails to your list, you're communicating on a platform that you're in control of. And the reverse of that, is if you put stuff on social media, you don't own Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, and you have no control over how they let you use that platform. So, you're at the mercy of their algorithm as to how many people see your post. But also, in extreme situations, and we've seen high profile cases of this over the years, you could actually be kicked off Twitter or kicked off Facebook or kicked off Instagram. No one can kick you off your email list. You own that, and it is a real and valuable asset in your business that can't be taken away from you. And absolute worst case, if the email marketing platform that you use, say you're using ActiveCampaign, for example, and they suddenly went bust, doesn't matter because you've still got that list and you can transport it to another email marketing system instead. And the third and probably biggest reason for doing email marketing is it produces a really, really strong return on investment. Right now, people are often surprised by this because email, of all the sort of online communication methods, email is one that's been around the longest, doesn't it? And it's, I think, often therefore seen as, oh, it's it's old-fashioned or it's yesterday's news or whatever. And it's not as exciting and sexy as social media or the other newer ways of communicating. But despite that, email marketing has a really big return on investment. There's the Direct Marketing Association put out numbers pretty much every year, and their latest numbers I saw said that I think it was for every pound that businesses spend on email marketing, they get £42 back. And that number's been going up over years. But when I first saw that stat a few years ago, it was like every pound you spend on email marketing, you get £32 back. But it's going up and up each year. And and I've seen I've seen real examples of this where I put in an email that I sent out to my list a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about this webinar. One of my one-to-one coaching clients, Bobby, he was able last month to send an email to his list. One email he sent on a Saturday morning, and by the Sunday afternoon, he'd got 9 appointments in the diary. And that's the power of having an email list. Obviously, you've got to build a list before you can do that, and I'll tell you how you do that in a minute. But having a list gives you an asset that you can just send an email to that and get new business in. I get it in my own business as well. Last year, I sent an email out to my whole list, and I was actually this is a good example how sometimes an email gets a different result from what you expect, but it's still a good result. I sent an email to my entire list. Basically, I was looking for ideas for what new content to write about. So I sent an email to them saying, what's the biggest problem you've got in your business at the moment, or something like that. And one person replied to that email and said, my biggest problem is I haven't got time to set up my own Google Ads. What would you charge to do it for me? And that landed me a new piece of work just from sending one email. Okay, so it really is a great way to get a good return on investment for a very, very low marketing spend. There's not a big cost in doing email marketing compared to some other things like Google Ads or advertising on social networks or whatever. Okay, so that's why you should do it. Let's just dispel the myths about what email marketing isn't. Okay, so email marketing in the context that I'm talking about here is not about going out and buying a list of names and email addresses from a data supplier, from a list broker. Okay, the kind of email marketing we're talking about here is sending emails to people who've actually asked to be on your list. Okay, they've not ended up there, because they've had their data harvested. These people have actually asked to be on your specific email list and to receive emails from you about a particular kind of subject matter. Okay, so it's what we call an opted in list. Okay. And it's not about spamming people. It's not about sending people stuff they don't want or constant sales messages. It's about sending people things that they will actually want to read. And again, I'll explain how we do that in a minute. Now, this one might surprise you. Email marketing, in my book anyway, is not about sending newsletters. Right? There was a few reasons why I say that. And it will surprise you I say that, because obviously the really common thing you see on websites is sign up for our newsletter. But ask yourself this: when you see a box that says sign up for our newsletter, how often do you put your details in? Right? I bet it's not very often. And the reason for that is it doesn't sound exciting. With the best will in the world, other people don't want your news. They don't care that you employed a new member of staff this month or you won an award or whatever. So as soon as you talk about a newsletter, it sounds very much like it's all about you rather than it being about something which will of interest to the reader. Okay, so you'll still hear people say, I'm sending out an email newsletter, but the people who are doing email marketing properly, it's not really a newsletter full of lots of different stories or things that are happening in the news. It's actually an email which is going to be useful and relevant, interesting and entertaining for the person who gets it. And again, I'm going to explain how you do that in a bit. The other thing as well with newsletters, as soon as people talk about newsletters, they tend to think of things which are really sort of got lots of graphic design in them and lots of colors and images and branding and all that kind of stuff. And again, the most powerful email marketing doesn't have all those bells and whistles. It's just a nice, plain, simple email that looks like it was sent just to one person rather than sent to an entire list. Again, any of you who are on my list, which is probably pretty much all of you on this call, have a look at the emails I send. They're deliberately not all pretty colors and branding, because I want them to look like it's just an email sent to that one individual recipient. Okay, even though it's actually going to thousands of people. And email marketing is not about constantly selling. You don't want to be that person where every email that you send to your list is where you're trying to flog them something. Okay? You can do a bit of selling, but it shouldn't be, the bill. So the 80-20 rule applies. If you can do about 80% where you're not selling and where you're educating, informing, giving useful info, then people will forgive you that 20% where you are selling. But if you try and sell all the time, people will just unsubscribe or stop reading your emails. So that's what it's not about. So what is good email marketing about? Well, first and foremost, it is about building relationships with people, building relationships with those potential clients or existing clients who are on your email list. And that's a really, really important part of it. It's a good reason why I put that one first. It's just before the call started, one of the people, Justin, was saying BNI this morning. And I used to be in BNI, it's a networking organization. And one of the things I always remember them teaching was that BNI and that regular kind of weekly networking meeting is all about getting people to know, like, and trust you. Because once they know, like, and trust you, they'll want to do business with you. Well, good email marketing is about taking that same concept of getting people to know, like, and trust you, but you're doing it at scale, because you're doing it to a whole email list of people rather than just the 30 or 40 people who are turning up to breakfast with you each week. But it's exactly the same idea. You build the relationship, and then instead of you having to try selling to people, once you've got that relationship, they're going to come to you when they have a need and say, hi, David, hi, John, whatever your name is, can you help me? Okay. Part of that building relationships is about making sure your emails deliver value so that they are helpful, useful emails. They should be interesting because you want people to read them. And you can provide opportunities for people to buy. So that's very different from selling. So you can send an email which gives some really useful advice on something, teaches people a tip they didn't know or something like that, perhaps something about how the mortgage process works. Well, and you can at the end say, if you want some tailored advice on this, click here and book an appointment with me. So that's giving someone an opportunity to buy, but your email is 80 or 90% about giving them some information, and only that final call to action at the end is in any way a sort of a sales message, and it's a subtle one at that. Okay, hoping this is all making sense. If it's not, chuck questions in the chat, but at the moment I'm not getting any questions in there. I can see one from Chris that I'll come to later on, but hopefully it's all making sense. Right, so that's what it's all about. Now, obviously, before you can send emails out, because as I said, we're not going and buying a list of names from a data broker, before you can do any kind of email marketing, you need to have an email list. So you need to build a list. And that's actually a lot easier than you might think if you go about it the right way. And there are basically 3 ingredients that you need to build an email list. Firstly, you need an email marketing platform. So what you don't want to do with this kind of email marketing, you don't want to send emails to several thousand people all at once from your own Outlook or your own Gmail account or whatever, okay? Because you just will get flagged as a spammer. You need to send your emails through a proper third-party email marketing system. So things like ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact, ConvertKit, MailChimp, those kinds of things, okay? So those systems, yeah, there's a small monthly fee to have them, but I mean, some of them, I think ConvertKit still is free up to like the first 300 subscribers or something, but they start low cost and they get more and more expensive the more people you've got on your list. But for a sort of small monthly fee of say sort of £20–30 a month, you can get an email system set up, and that will handle maintaining your list. It will deal with taking people off the list when they want to unsubscribe, and it's the system through which you will send all of your emails, okay? And that's pretty much the only cost involved in this, right? Which is why I said before, that's one of the reasons it gives a really good return on investment, because your actual overheads with it are really, really low. So you need an email system. You need something called a lead magnet. I'll explain what that is in a minute, but the lead magnet is what we're going to use to get people onto your list. And you need an opt-in form, so basically a form where people can enter their name and their email address, which you put on your website, and that's what people fill in that form to join your list. So, I said before that you get the forms on websites saying sign up for our newsletter. Well, that's an opt-in form. The difference is the way we're going to be doing it, your opt-in form says something far more exciting than sign up for our newsletter, but it's performing the same job. People fill their name and email in, that puts them onto your list. Okay. So I said we need a lead magnet. So what is a lead magnet? Lots of different definitions out there, but basically it's a piece of content, a valuable piece of content that you're going to give to your audience for free in exchange for their name and email address. Okay, so if you like, it's the carrot that we dangle in front of people to get them to give you their name and email address and go onto your list. Right? And the lead magnet, if it's done correctly, will be a lot more of an enticing carrot than sign up for our newsletter. All right. So for your lead magnet to attract people and make them want to give you their details, as a few things it needs to be. It needs to be valuable, it needs of value to them. So again, that's why a newsletter doesn't work, because a newsletter doesn't have a promise of any value. All right. Whereas a lead magnet that has the right kind of title, I'll show you some examples in a minute, will have implied value straight away. Okay. I mean, I'll give you an example now. Suppose you're a mortgage broker and you're looking to attract clients in the adverse credit space. All right. A lead magnet that would be valuable to your potential client is a lead magnet that's called something like 5 ways to improve your credit score in the next 90 days. Yeah. So someone who's got credit problems and is looking to get a mortgage and perhaps has already been turned down for a mortgage because the banker said you've got a low credit score, if they see you offering a free guide about how to improve your credit score in the next 90 days, that immediately has value for them. Okay. Far more so than a newsletter. So to make your lead magnet valuable, it needs to be focused on delivering a particular outcome or solving a pain point that your ideal client has. So again, in that example of if you were targeting people with bad credit, you know that a pain point they have is their credit score is too low to get a mortgage from the high street bank. So if your lead magnet is around solving that pain point, increasing their credit score within the next 3 months, that's going to entice them to download it. And it needs to be easy to consume, because although primarily we're using the lead magnet as a carrot that we're dangling to get people to come onto the list, ideally we do want people to actually read the lead magnet as well, because if it really is offering value, you want them to have that value, so as they then think, oh well, I got great stuff from that lead magnet, so now when I receive this person's emails, I'm also going to open their emails. So your lead magnet doesn't have to be 50 pages long. In fact, often the shorter the better. Okay. I often see people trying to do lead magnets where they're calling it, the complete guide to remortgaging or the complete guide to pensions. Well, A, that sounds quite dull, and B, if it's the complete guide to it, they're never going to work their way through it because it's going to have too much information in there. So focus on one particular pain point or desired outcome and make your lead magnet just about that. There are various different types of lead magnet you can create. The easiest to do is probably the free guide. So the example I gave there of how to improve your credit rating in the next 90 days, that will be a free guide. If you were an IFA looking to target with pensions, you might have a free guide called 5 ways to retire earlier than you thought you could, or 10 things you should be doing in your 30s to guarantee a comfortable retirement, that kind of thing. So free guides are a good idea. You can also do checklists. So I was talking to one of my one-to-one coaching clients earlier this week about creating a lead magnet, and one of the ideas we talked about there was, if you're a mortgage broker, obviously a lot of your target audience are people who are looking to buy a house at the moment. So give them something that will be useful when they're going house hunting. So, like a checklist that they can use on property viewings, where it's got a list of all the things they need to ask, all the things they need to check, so as they don't get home from a day full of viewings and think, oh, property number 3, we've got to ask about the council tax band, whatever. So just something as simple as a checklist, doesn't matter. It's just going to be useful to your target audience. Some people use quizzes as a lead magnet. So you ever seen those sort of quizzes where it's like, take this quiz and find out what personality type you are, or in the finance space, take this quiz and find out how financially astute you are. Quizzes like that are a form of lead magnet, because to get the results and get their score at the end, the person who's taken the quiz has to enter their name and email address. The nice thing about doing a quiz as well as a lead magnet is you can find out something about the people who are joining your list when they join, and you can, if you're being a bit more advanced with stuff, you can then send them different emails based on what their answers to the quiz were. So if the quiz shows that they've got all their pensions sorted, but they haven't done, I don't know, any estate planning or any will writing, well, you'd make sure you sent them more emails about that kind of stuff than about the pension stuff that they'd already got sorted. Some people run webinars as a lead magnet. So you could do a webinar on a particular financial topic, and people have to give their name and email address to register to come to it. Some people do a mini course. If you really want to go to town, you could do, I don't know, a mini course on how to improve your household budgeting. And you could do a little bit of financial education course. But to be honest, if you're just starting out with this, I would say the easiest thing to do, and it works perfectly well, is the free guide or the checklist. They are the easiest ones to create, and they will do a perfectly good job. If it's the right kind of subject matter and the right kind of title, they will do a perfectly good job of attracting people onto your list, and they're easier to do than quizzes, webinars, or courses. Okay. Here are some examples of real lead magnets. So this is a lead magnet. Those of you on the call who are members of the Predictable Pipeline program, you can get this actual lead magnet for free inside the membership as a template that you can use and adapt or whatever. But this is an example of a lead magnet that if you were targeting first-time buyers, this would be a perfect lead magnet for them. 7 things you need to know before you buy your first home. What first-time buyer is not going to be interested in that? Because it's clearly relevant to them. And it's so different, isn't it, from the complete guide to getting a mortgage. That sounds a bit complicated and a bit hard to consume, whereas that has a clear outcome, that guide there. One of the other ones that my members get access to is this one here, aimed more at people who are moving home. So what's a big pain point people have when they're not a first-time buyer, they're a next-time buyer? A big pain point I've certainly found the times I've moved home is you've found the house you want to buy, but you haven't found a buyer for your own place yet. And so the whole chain's in danger of collapsing or whatever. So a good lead magnet to offer that market would be this one here, 9 ways to sell your home faster and without having to reduce the price. So your lead magnet doesn't have to be, just spotted a typo on my slide, that's annoying. Your lead magnet doesn't have to be directly about mortgages or about financial advice. It just has to be something which will be useful and relevant to the kind of people who you want to attract as clients. So obviously someone who's moving house is a potential client for a mortgage broker, but you can make the lead magnet relevant to their task of moving house rather than relevant to the world of mortgages. I hope that makes sense. So they're examples of lead magnets. Obviously, lots of others that you could do. And then that's an example of what I mean by an opt-in form. Okay, so that's actually taken from a page on my website. One of my lead magnets is a swipe file of example Google ads from mortgage brokers adverts that people can use as inspiration for their own campaigns. So I have a very simple form on a page on my website that says grab these 46 copy and paste Google ads, and then below that, in case you can't read it, it says sign up below to get regular digital marketing tips via email and get instant access to this free swipe file, and then name and email address. And the wording on that is very deliberate. So I'm making it very clear that they are signing up to get regular emails from me. Okay. And in addition, they're going to get instant access to this free guide. Okay. So, they're clearly, so there's clear consent there that they know what they're signing up for. Okay. And then so putting those things together, the process that then happens is you have this page on your website with the opt-in form on it. Yeah, so a page with a form like that. People fill in their details. They then get sent to a thank you page that just says something like, "Thanks for requesting our free guide. It's on its way to you. Go and check your inbox." Okay? And then your email marketing system is working away in the background doing all of this stuff. It automatically then sends that new subscriber an email, that you've written that says, "Yeah, thanks for requesting our free guide to 7 things you must know before you buy your first home. Click here to download it." And then they click it and they've got it. But the lead magnet has now done its job of getting them onto the list. Okay. So I hope that's making sense. Any questions, chuck them in the chat. But that is basically the process we're going to use to get people onto the list. Okay. So now your next question is, well, that's all we want, David, but how are we going to get people to hear about the lead magnet? Well, there are all sorts of ways that you can promote your lead magnet. One very simple way that you should definitely do is to basically advertise it on your website. Okay, so you can have banners on your website. So instead of on your website saying sign up for our newsletter, download our free guide on how to improve your credit score in the next 90 days, or download our free guide that will show you how to retire earlier and have more money in retirement, or whatever your guide is about. Okay, have adverts for it on your site, and you can also have, these are very effective at getting people to join your list. You can have pop-ups that appear when someone lands on your website. Maybe not on your main sort of homepage, but if you've got blog posts and things on your site, you can configure your website so when someone lands on one of your blog posts, within a second or two of them arriving there, a pop-up appears offering them the free guide. Or it can be a pop-up that appears when they're just about to leave your website. That's called an on-exit pop-up. So there's all sorts of different ways on your site you can promote it. And you can either if you've got something like a WordPress site and you maintain it yourself, you can get plugins that will do all this stuff. Or if not, you can talk to your web designer and say, I want these kind of pop-ups on there. If you have a YouTube channel, if you don't have a YouTube channel, you should have one, because YouTube's the second biggest search engine. But if you have a YouTube channel, you can promote your lead magnet at the end of every video you do, or as a link in the description. Okay? And again, the nice thing about that, promoting your lead magnet, is that's a much softer, easier call to action to give people, rather than book a call with me. If you watched a YouTube video from a total stranger and they gave you some information at the end, click the link in the description to book a call with me, you're probably not going to do it, because you haven't got that know, like, and trust that we talked about in place yet. Whereas if at the end of the video they just say, if you want to know more about this, click the link in the description, download our free guide that will tell you how to do X, Y, Z, that's a much easier call to action that people are far more likely to follow through on. You can promote your lead magnet in social media posts, or through DMs you're sending people. So I'm sure if you're anything like me, you regularly get people connect with you on LinkedIn, and as soon as they've connected, they're straight in with, oh, let's have a call to discuss synergies, or let's go for a coffee, or whatever. Okay, and you probably don't respond to them. What I do on LinkedIn is I'll connect with people and I'll say, thanks for connecting. And then depending on who they are, I might say something like, oh, I see you work in the mortgage space. I know a lot of mortgage brokers are looking for ideas for how to generate more leads at the moment. So if that's you, here's a link to a free guide I've got that will help you with that. See how much of a softer opening that is. And that gets lots of people who join my mailing list, probably including some of you here. That's how they joined it. Okay? And that's a much less pushy opening than let's have a call and discuss synergies. I don't like synergies, as you can probably tell. And you can put a link to it in your bio, social media bios as well. Networking. I'm talking about real world networking. So if you're at a networking event, it's much easier to say to people, go and download my guide. Or, if you're doing the kind of very formal sort of BNI networking, where each week you're supposed to say what you want as a referral. And I know this from, when I was a member and did this. If I said, oh, my referral request this week, I'd like to be introduced to financial advisors who want help with their marketing, I wouldn't get very much back. But if I said my referral request this week is tell every financial advisor and mortgage broker that I've got this new free guide they can download, I'd get loads of people doing that. So it's an easier door opener for other people. If you're a mortgage broker, for example, who works with estate agents, you're probably asking every estate agent to say to every person who walks through the door, I'll go and talk to our mortgage broker partner. And that's quite a big ask. But if the estate agents, all they had to do was say, we work with a mortgage broker who's produced this really useful guide for people like you, here's a link to download it, that's going to get people onto your list. And then once they're on your list, as we'll see in a moment, your follow-up emails will do the job of moving them from being someone who just downloaded a guide to someone who then wants to book a call with you. All right, so having a lead magnet basically makes you an easier person to refer business to, albeit at one extra step removed. And so those are all sort of free ways that you can promote your lead magnet. If you want to put a little bit of money behind it, and it does only have to be a little bit, it can be like £5 a day, you can run Facebook ads to promote your lead magnet. Okay? So again, rather than those of you who've heard me talk about Facebook before, you'll know what I always say. The problem with Facebook is no one goes on Facebook or any other social platform to look for a mortgage or financial advice. Okay? So when you run adverts on there where you're trying to get someone to book a call with you or have a consultation or whatever, that's normally too big a jump. But if you ran Facebook ads where all you're asking them to do is download your useful free guide that's going to help them fix a pain point they've got, they're far more likely to respond. And then again, they're into your system, and a few weeks down the line, once they've had a few of your emails and got to know, like, and trust you, then they'll come book a call with you anyway. So you don't need to try and advertise the appointment in the Facebook ad. You just advertise the easier thing of the lead magnet and then let your email system take over from there. Okay. Now, some people probably on this call don't have a website. So I know quite a few people in financial services, you're working under another firm, you haven't got your own website. Again, this is where a lead magnet and an email list is really good, because you don't actually need to have a website in order to start building an email list. You can instead use something called instant forms on Facebook. So I'll show you some screenshots to explain what they are. But basically, it's a form of Facebook advertising where instead of people clicking on your Facebook ad and going to your website, they click on your advert and a form just appears on Facebook where you can offer them the lead magnet and they can put their details in and join your list that way. Okay. Here's an example. This isn't offering a lead magnet, but it's an example of a Facebook instant form. So there's an advert on Facebook that says, worried about losing your home to cover care costs. And then you click the thing to learn more. And it says what they do, and you click next, and then there's a form appears where you put your contact information in. So you can use that kind of advert on Facebook to get people onto your mailing list. It requires a little bit of setup. It's beyond the scope of what we've got time to cover today, but if it's something you want to know more about, I'll be telling you at the end how you can book a call with me and get some one-to-one advice. So if you want to know more about that, I can talk to you about it then. And if you're one of the people on the call who's in my group coaching program, we've got training in the program on how to set up those forms. So if you're a member of that and don't know where that training is, let me know and I'll ping you a link to it. So that's the instant forms. Okay, so we've covered there how to build the list and how to use a lead magnet, how to promote it and get people onto your list. So you've now got this list of people, of email addresses, that's obviously growing, day by day. What do you do with them? Well, what you do with them is once they've joined your list, they need to receive follow-up emails. And it's these follow-up emails that are going to do that relationship building we talked about and encourage, over a period of days or weeks, encourage that person to take the next step, which might be, to buy a product from you, might be to book a call with you, whatever, depending on what kind of business you're in. So the key thing about these follow-up emails, this is the brilliance of this, is you only have to write them once, okay? Because the follow-up emails that everyone gets when they join your list are all pre-written and automated. Right. So let's say, for example, going back to that lead magnet, it had 7 things you need to know before you buy your first home. Right. If that was the lead magnet that someone's downloaded, you can configure your email system so as over the next 7 days, they'll get 7 automated emails, 1 per day, where each email goes into a bit more detail on one of the 7 tips that was in the lead magnet. Okay. And at the end of each email, there's a gentle call to action. If you want some help with this, click here to book a call with me. Or if you want some help with this, reply to this email and we'll fix something up, whatever it is. But the point is that the emails are pre-written and everyone who joins your list will just go through that sequence day by day, starting from whatever day they joined your list. All right. And that's why, when I was talking about what's going to cover today, I made a big point saying this is about creating something that runs on autopilot. So there's some work to do up front to create it, absolutely. But once you've built it, it just runs in the background. Yeah. You know, my own email list, you know, when people join my list, they go through a sequence of emails that sort of tell them a bit about me and how I can help them and things like that. I wrote that, I don't know, a couple of years ago, but it just works day in, day out, and obviously then delivers me calls and inquiries and whatever. And you can do exactly the same in your business. So yeah, the follow-up emails, they're pre-written, they're automated. They should be frequent, right? So this is a thing I find that one of the big fears people have when they have an email list, and I touched on this at the beginning when I was talking about that poll, the survey I did. People are scared to email their list too often, right? You should be sending emails to your list at least weekly, if not more often. And particularly when people have just joined your list, right? Because think about it. Why did someone join your list? If you had the right wording on your opt-in form, they joined your list to get tips and advice on whatever it is that you're an expert in. Yeah. So why would they not want to get emails from you on a frequent basis? If someone joins your list and you, on the basis that they're going to get regular tips on how to achieve X, Y, Z, and then you only email them once a month, you're doing them a disservice. Yeah. So change your mindset around that. Okay. You need to email more frequently, particularly with the people who've just joined your list. Right. So, you know, I mean, it's not hard and fast rules on this, but if you want a guide, you know, what I tend to do is people, when they first join my list, they'll get an email every day for the first sort of about 2 to 3 weeks. And then, you know, once they've been through all my sort of initial sequences, then it'll probably drop to sort of 2 or 3 times a week. Okay. But it's always once a week as an absolute minimum. Okay. But more frequently at the beginning, because by and large, people are most likely to buy from you. And I use the word buy in its broad sense, you know, to include things like booking an appointment or whatever. People are most likely to buy from you in that first 60 to 90 days after they first join your list, because that's when they've got, yeah, we know they've got a need and a problem to solve, because that's why they joined your list. So that's also when they're most likely to respond. So you need to be in front of them every day. And remember, not every person on your list will read every single email that you send. Okay, however brilliantly written they are. So whilst it might seem really frequent to you, it's less frequent to them because they're not necessarily going to open every single email. All right. And well, let's answer Lisa's question, which she's asked because it's a quick question. It's relevant. Lisa's asked in the chat, should you do the emails at the same time day each week? Is there a good time day to do them? I tend to mix it up a bit. What I tend to do is when people first join my list, I make sure that the emails go out. So say someone joined my list at 1 p.m, then they'll get an email straight away with delivering the lead magnet, and then the email the next day will be at 1 p.m. And I'll keep it at that same. So I always do it exactly 24 hours after they join my list, because my logic behind that is, well, you know, that's clearly a time of day when they're on the internet looking for stuff. So let's keep sending it at that time. But then as they progress through the system, I'll mix it up a bit. You can find all kinds of surveys and things about when's the best day of the week to email, when's the best time. I think, frankly, they're all a bit meaningless because everything's dependent on your individual list. So all you can really do is mix it up a bit as time goes on. And if you start to see any patterns, like, you know, when you send an email on a Friday afternoon, you get more people replying to it, then you know that's a good time for your list. But it really will vary depending on your audience. And Dylan's asked, do you think it's worth having a specialist diary booking system like Calendly so people can book an appointment, or should they be filtered better? No, I think giving them a Calendly link to book is ideal. And again, you can mix it up a bit. So sometimes, you know, some of the clients that I'm working with on this will do a mixture where some emails will say, you know, click here to book in my diary. But we're also conscious that not all sort of members of the, see, we have a bit of a different view on things, as we're, you know, pretty much all of us on this call are business owners, aren't we? And we're used to booking into Calendly and other people's systems, but depending on the demographic and the audience you're targeting, that might be a bit alien to them. So, you know, with some of my clients, we'll do some emails that says click here to book in my diary, but others where we just say, if you'd like an appointment with me, just click reply and say yes, and I'll fix something up with you. It doesn't really matter. It's just about getting that dialogue going and moving them, you know, into a one-to-one conversation. So yeah, I would say mix it up a bit. Okay, so follow-up emails should be frequent. They should be simple. So this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. You don't need lots of graphic design and stuff. And in fact, I would advise against it. Keep the emails as plain and simple looking as possible. So I often get people say to me, oh, the thing is, David, when I get emails from you, I'm never sure whether it's one you've sent just to me or whether you've sent it to your whole list. Bingo. That's exactly what I want them to think. Right? I don't want people to see my email and think it's been sent to a whole list. And you should be aiming for the same thing as well. So by keeping your email simple, just plain text, just like if you were writing an email to a single client or to your mum or whatever, it's going to be opened more. And by the same token, it's better if the email comes from your actual name. Pick a person. If Lisa was sending me email, it should say it's from Lisa rather than from whatever her company name is, because people are more likely to open an email from a person than they are to open an email that comes from XYZ Limited. Okay. You need to have an eye-catching subject line. Again, there's lots of fun to be had playing around with different subject lines and things. And that definitely makes a big difference to open rates. And actually, subject lines is something where AI is really good. I've got some really good ChatGPT prompts that I use with coaching clients to help them come up with subject lines and stuff. And that's where ChatGPT isn't so good at writing actual emails or content, but coming up with subject lines is one of the things it seems to be really good at. The email should contain useful info, but again, as I sort of touched on before, builds on what was in the lead magnet and is relevant to your ideal client. And you should absolutely use stories in your emails, right? The best way to sell anything in any medium is with a story, all right? So a really good format to follow is to start your email with a story. It could be a story about something that happened to you. It could be a story about something that happened to a client of yours, or just a story, plucked from the world of business or finance or, whatever. And then you use that story to convey the teaching point that you want to make. Okay. I did some work. We had this conversation a while ago. I ran a session for my group coaching members all about using stories to sell. We were having a discussion around it and kind of come up with ideas that different people use for stories. And one of the guys on the call was looking, don't think he's on this call today, but specialized in mortgages for over 60s. And he said, well, what's a story I could use to talk about that in an email? And I said, well, what you've got to do is think, well, someone getting a mortgage over 60, that's an example of someone doing something that a lot of people would think was impossible at that age. Okay. So what other stories are there where someone did something at an advanced age, which people would have thought was impossible? And one of the other people on the call said, oh, what about, 80-year-old who finished the London Marathon? I was like, perfect. So you tell the story of the 80-year-old who, challenged himself to run London Marathon, and the journey he went through to training and any setbacks he had, and then achieved it. And then you segue from that and go, and just in the same way as everyone thought that this 80-year-old granddad couldn't complete the marathon, a lot of people think that people of that age can't get a mortgage, but actually they can. And here's how you do it. So you get people's interest and engagement through the story before you segue into the teaching point or the bit of useful info that you want to give. All right. I always say it's a very similar concept to, like, when you were a kid at school and they tell a story in assembly and then say, and the moral of the story is, you should do what your parents tell you, or you should, not talk to strangers or whatever. But if they package the teaching point up in an interesting story, do the same with your emails. And say they can be stories from your own life about clients, or just plucked from sort of the public domain. And every email should end with a call to action. Right. It doesn't have to be necessarily a call to action to book a call with you, like we talked about before, but just something. Because what you want to do, you want to be effectively training your readers that every time they get an email from you, they do something at the end. So it could be, click here to watch my YouTube video about this for more info, or click here to read the blog I've written about this. It doesn't have to always be a call booking or something like that, but there should be some call to action at the end of everything. So you're training. What you're trying to do with these follow-up emails is training your list, training your readers that when they get an email from you, they want to open it because it's going to be interesting and have useful info and or an interesting story in it. And you want to be training them when they read an email from you, they always do take some kind of action at the end of it. All right. And again, these follow-up emails, those of you on the call who are in the Predictable Pipeline program, we have template follow-up email signatures you can take and copy and adapt for yourself, so you don't have to start the whole thing from scratch. So once people have gone through your sort of pre-written follow-up sequence, which could last a week, could last a month, then they go into what I call the sort of general pool of people who've been on your list for a while but haven't done anything yet. And those people, you still send ongoing emails to them, but they're kind of written, manually. So I write emails like that, once or twice a week, and just send them to everyone on my list who's not going through the sort of initial sequence. And the purposes of those emails is to, as I said, it's to scoop up the people who didn't respond, in the first 30 to 90 days to your initial follow-up emails, but also to get more repeat business from past clients. So I'm doing this with one of my one-to-one coaching clients at the moment. He's got a big list of people who've had a mortgage from him in the past, and we're now working on some emails that he can send out, 1 or 2 a week, to get more protection sales from that same audience. Again, using that sort of idea of telling stories and then transitioning into a teaching point about why something like income protection therefore is really important and perhaps more affordable than you might think, whatever. So yeah, your ongoing emails, they're what we tend to call broadcast emails, because rather than being pre-written, you just write them in the moment and send them to your entire list. So the emails you've had from me in the last few days saying come to today's webinar, they are examples of broadcast emails. Okay. Your ongoing emails are good thing to do in those to sort of shatter any myths that people have around your particular topic. So, and again, this is where ChatGPT is really good. I've got some good prompts that I use with my one-to-one clients that will help them come up with, you can say, I'm a financial advisor who specializes in, so here's a real example. We used these prompts and said, I'm a financial advisor who specializes in estate planning and IHT advice, and said to ChatGPT, give me some common myths people have around that topic. And one of the myths it came up with was the myth that you can avoid having your home taken for care fees or avoid IHT or whatever it was just by transferring your property into the name of your children. And brilliant idea for an email. Lots of people do think that. Let's write an email actually, pointing out the truth around that. So yeah, emails that shatter myths or address misconceptions are really good. And as I say, that's where, with the right prompts, ChatGPT can be a really good source of those if you can't, if you don't have them immediately coming to mind yourself. Use stories in your ongoing emails as well. And yeah, as I say, if you're stuck for ideas, then I've got some ChatGPT prompts I can share with you if you want, that will help you with that kind of stuff. So yeah, there we are. That's it in a nutshell. So your next steps, if you want to do something with this, which I hope you will, because see, you come to a thing like this, you've got 2 choices. You can sit there and just suck up the information, that was lovely, and then do nothing with it, or ideally you actually go away and implement it. So if you want to implement it, your next steps really are, the first thing is think of a subject matter and title for a lead magnet. So think, who's your ideal client? Think, what is a big pain point that kind of ideal client has, or or a desirable outcome they want to get, and then think, right, what kind of lead magnet can I create that is going to grab that kind of person's attention and make them want to download it? That's the first step. And then you write your email sequence. I would say at least 10 emails that people are going to get, 1 a day, after they've downloaded that lead magnet. All right, which, as I say, different ways you can do that sequence. The easiest way when you're just doing your first one is write emails that build on stuff that was in the lead magnet. So if you've done a lead magnet that was 5 ways to improve your credit score in the next 90 days, let's say tip number 1 in the lead magnet was make sure you're on the electoral roll. Well, then you've got the topic for one of your follow-up emails. One of your follow-up emails can go into a bit more detail about actually how you get yourself on the electoral roll. How do you check if you're on there? And how do you get yourself on there if you find that you aren't? That's perfect self-contained one email, and it builds on what was in the lead magnet. Okay. And then the other next step you're very welcome to do, and I've encouraged you to do, is I'm offering for everyone who's come to the webinar today a free strategy call with me, where if you want, we can get on a call for half an hour and I will help you figure out what the best lead magnet topic and content would be for your particular business and your particular kind of ideal client. And I'll help you plan out what the follow-up emails should have in them. I'll of course tell you if you want how you can work with me ongoing to get more help with this stuff. But the basic thing is I'll give you half an hour of my time to help you work out what your strategy should be. Because obviously today I've tried to give us a one size fits all. once I'm talking one-to-one with any of you, we can drill into who's your ideal client, what kind of lead magnet would work for them, and what sort of emails would, you know, move people from being just a subscriber on your list to being a client, which yeah, is obviously where it gets really interesting. So if you want to book one of those, I will send this link to you all afterwards as well, but it's just go to the ppcmachine.co.uk/call. It's an online calendar booking that you'll all be familiar with. Put your name stuff in there. One thing I would say, there are 3 questions on the booking form about, you know, what's your current biggest challenge in the business and a bit about your business. It's really helpful if you can actually fill that in, and that will save us a lot of time on the actual call and mean you get better value out of it as well. Okay. Good, that's it. So any other questions? I see there's one from Chris put in there a while ago, so I'll answer that. And if anyone's got any other questions, pop them into the chat. In fact, Christopher, if you, do you want to unmute, Chris, and just explain your question in a bit more detail? Are you there, Chris? Because I think I know what you're asking, but it might be useful just to get a bit more. No, it's not there. Okay, well, I'll try and. So what Chris asked was, what is your advice if working for a firm so we don't technically own the asset? So I think you put it in when I was talking about, you know, the email list being an asset in your business. I mean, ideally, what you want to do is build up an email list that is actually your own, you know, because then if you move to a different firm, you know, you can take that with you. So without knowing a bit more about the exact setup, and if you want to book a call with me and we can talk about it in more detail, then that's absolutely fine. But I would say, if possible, what you want to be doing is building up that list as Chris's list rather than the firm's list. So as if you go on to work anywhere else or you go out on your own, then that is an asset that you can take with you. So hopefully that answers the question, but say if not, book one of those calls and we can talk about it in more detail. Any other questions? Justin says, excellent session, Dave. Thank you, Justin. Oh yeah, and Chris has just said, yeah, that's it. Just a bit tricky with regards to ownership. Yeah, well, if you want to have a call and brainstorm some ways around it, Chris, then that's absolutely fine. So Eric says, great, really enjoyed. Thank you. That's good. Excellent, Eric. So yeah, those of you saying you enjoyed it, go and do something with it, because it'd be even more enjoyable once you actually start seeing leads coming in. That's the really enjoyable part. And it does, but I mean, I've told some of you this story before, but there was a guy, one of my one-to-one coaching clients who I was working with last year, and he'd just gone self-employed and was joining a network, and, you know, the usual FCA delays to get authorized. So he couldn't actually have a website at that point, but wanted to be working on some kind of marketing so he could hit the ground running. And the thing we focused on there was exactly what I've talked about today. We created a lead magnet that was aimed at his ideal kind of client he wanted to attract. We wrote a series of follow-up emails, got that all set up, and he went live with some Facebook ads promoting that, again with about £5 a day budget, and he kicked off those ads in the beginning of December. And by the time I spoke to him, like on about the 4th of January or something, he'd got 6 appointments booked in the diary just from people who'd seen his Facebook ad, downloaded his free guide, got a couple of the follow-up emails, and then, you know, replied and said, yep, you know, I'd like to talk to you more about, you know, what you've just said in this email. The other thing to remember with the emails as well is even if people aren't reading every word of every email, it's keeping you at the front of their mind, because I'm sure you speak to people where they go, oh yeah, thanks for that information. Yeah, I'm going to go away and have a think about it, and then they don't come back to you. And rather than you having to actually sort of hound them and go, have you made a decision yet? Are you going to come back to me? Just from them getting your daily automated emails, that can be enough to remind them, oh yeah, I need to get back to Justin about that thing we talked about, you know. And I've had that before. I've had things where, you know, someone has replied to one of my emails that's gone to my list, not about what was in the email, but just say, oh, I'll be meaning to come back to you for a couple of weeks. Yes, I'd like to go ahead with that thing we talked about. And it was just receiving my daily email that actually prompted them to make the decision on the far bigger piece of work we've been talking about separately. Okay. Oh, Des, hello, Des. Des has put in the chat, happy to speak to anyone here who wants the same arrangement if they don't currently have that at their existing firm. Oh, and you said further up is the relationship stays with the advisor. Yeah, so so Des, Des runs a firm with self-employed mortgage brokers. So yeah, if you are one of the people on the call who's finding that your current setup is too restrictive for this, then yeah, do have a word with Des. I'm sure we can help you out. Thanks for that, Des. On Pardeep, there's more contact you seem to discuss. Yeah, absolutely looking forward to Pardeep. Just PPC machine co.uk/call, and yeah, let's get something booked in. Good. Any other final questions? That's all right, Des. Des has put his phone number in the chat as well now and says sorry for the recruitment opportunity. Any other questions? Self-promotion, recruitment opportunities. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming along and for your attention and everything. And please do take me up on the offer of the call. I'd love to give you some one-to-one advice on how to actually, tailor this to your business and whatever. All right. And my plan is to run something like this every couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for details of the next one, which will obviously be a different topic. Okay. All right. Cheers, everyone. Have a good rest of the day. Bye. Well, I hope you found that webinar interesting. I mean, it's given you some good ideas for how you could start growing your own email list and building that kind of asset in your business that you could use in just the way that Bobby did to get more appointments booked into your diary. If you'd like to know more about how to actually create lead magnets, set up the email software, all that kind of stuff, I've got a training course that shows you exactly how to do that. I'll put a link to that in the description. Another option is you could join my group coaching program, the Predictable Pipeline program, which is for mortgage brokers and IFAs who want to learn how to improve their marketing and lead generation. And we cover all sorts of things in there, including, of course, email marketing and how to do that properly. And as I said at the end of the webinar, if you'd like some one-to-one advice from me on how to start making email a part of your marketing strategy in your business, you are very welcome to book a free strategy call with me using the link that was shown there at the end of the webinar, and I'll put a link to that and all the other courses and resources in the description below. So do check those out, and hopefully I'll speak to you soon. All the best. Bye now.